So, what if the most painful moments of your life were actually the building blocks for your greatest successes? Today, we're going to dive into one of the most remarkable speeches ever given. It's not some grand biography, but 3 simple, powerful stories from one life that teach us some profound truths about connecting the dots, about love and loss, and about the power of remembering you're going to die.
No big deal. With that one simple, disarming line, boom, the stage is set. This isn't going to be some lecture from up on high. This is an intimate conversation. It's a personal invitation for you to just lean in and listen.
All right, so the first story, it's all about connecting the dots. And it's this really powerful idea, right? That you just have to trust that your path makes sense, even when you feel like you're walking it completely in the dark.
Okay, so picture this. Your whole life, there's been this one big promise. You're going to go to college. But 6 months in, you realize it's a dead end, and it's draining your parents' life savings with every single day that passes. You feel completely lost, and so you make this terrifying choice. You drop out. You break that promise.
And you know, this wasn't some romantic, struggling artist kind of adventure. No way. This was survival. I mean, we're talking sleeping on floors, scrounging for food money by returning Coke bottles, walking 7 miles just to get one good meal a week. He was following his curiosity, but man, it was a path paved with hardship.
But here's the thing, right? Inside all that hardship, there was this incredible sense of freedom. All of a sudden, poof, those required classes he had no interest in, gone. He was totally free to just wander, to drop in on any class that sparked his curiosity, no matter how impractical it might have seemed.
So where does all this curiosity lead him? Of all things, a calligraphy class. I mean, on paper, this looks completely useless for his future, right? But he was just totally captivated by the beauty of it, the history, the artistry of it all, something that science just can't capture.
So for 10 years, that calligraphy class was just, a random memory, a totally useless dot. But then, 10 years later, he's designing the first Mac computer, and bam, it all comes flooding back. That single, seemingly impractical class became the foundation for the Mac's beautiful typography, and it literally changed personal computing forever.
And that's it. That's the huge lesson right there. You just can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only see the pattern when you're looking back. You have to have faith. You have to trust that the things that fascinate you now will somehow matter down the road. Trust your gut, your destiny, your karma, whatever it is you want to call it. You just have to trust that the dots will connect.
Okay, so that idea of trust, it leads us right into story number 2. And this one, it's all about love and loss. It's about how the thing you are absolutely passionate about can pull you through even your biggest failures, and how loss isn't always the end of the story.
So, let's set the stage here. By the time he was 30 years old, the company he started in a garage with a buddy was a $2 billion giant. With a B, it employed over 4,000 people. I mean, this was the absolute peak of success.
And then, this happens. It's the most brutal plot twist you can possibly imagine. After a major falling out with the guy he hired to run the company with him, the board of directors sided with the other guy. And just like that, at 30 years old, he was fired. Publicly. From the very company he had created.
I mean, can you imagine? The humiliation was just devastating. A very public failure. But then, as the dust started to settle, something really unexpected happened. He said the heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. He was free to start over, not so sure about everything, and just open to anything. And that newfound freedom? It kicked off one of the most creative periods of his entire life. So in just the next 5 years, what does he do? He starts a company called Next, which, by the way, is the company that eventually brings him back to Apple. He starts another little company you might have heard of, called Pixar. Oh, and he fell in love with the woman who would become his wife. So this is the wisdom that came out of all that pain. He said, sometimes life's going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. That experience, getting fired, it was like a brick to the head. It was awful. But his faith in what he was doing, that never ever wavered. So what was it that got him through all that? It's actually really simple. He just loved the work. And that, right there, is the key takeaway for all of us. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. And if you haven't found it yet, you have to keep looking. Just don't settle. Because that love is the only thing that's going to keep you going when life hits you in the head with a brick. Okay, now for the third and final story. And this one's the most intense of them all. It's about death, and how facing our own mortality isn't something we should fear, but actually, it might be the most powerful tool we have for living a truly meaningful life.
Just try to imagine this. For 33 years, every single morning, looking in the mirror and asking yourself this one question. If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? And if the answer was no for too many days in a row, he knew something had to change. And that was it. That was his ultimate gut check for making big decisions. And then, about a year before he gave this speech, that idea, that sort of philosophical tool, it became terrifyingly real. A scan at 7:30 in the morning clearly showed a tumor on his pancreas. All of a sudden, death wasn't a concept anymore. It was a clinical reality. And the first diagnosis was just brutal. The doctors told him, look, it's a type of cancer we can't cure. You have 3 to 6 months to live. They basically told him to go home and get his affairs in order, which, is doctor speak for prepare to die.
But then, later that same day, there's this incredible, unbelievable turn of events. They do a biopsy in the evening, and it turns out it's a very rare form of pancreatic cancer, one that was actually curable with surgery. He said the doctors who had just given him a death sentence were now crying. They were so relieved. He had the surgery, and he recovered.
So after staring death right in the face and surviving, he came to this really profound conclusion. He realized that death, it isn't the enemy. In fact, he called it life's single best invention. It's the change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. It's what drives progress.
And this is what it all boils down to. This is the ultimate lesson. Because when you remember you're going to die, it just strips away all the other stuff, all the external expectations, all the pride, all the fear of embarrassment, and it leaves only what is truly important. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life.
So he closes out his whole speech, not with his own words, but with a message from this publication that was, well, it was like the Bible for his generation. It was called the Whole Earth Catalog. You can kind of think of it like Google, but in book form way before the internet. It was this idealistic guide just full of neat tools and great notions.
And on the back cover of the very last issue, there was this simple photo of an early morning country road. And underneath it, just 4 words: stay hungry, stay foolish. And that was their final message to the world. And he made it his final wish for those graduates, and really for all of us. It's this beautiful challenge, right? To never be satisfied, to always keep that beginner's mind, and to always have the courage to follow your heart and your curiosity, no matter how foolish it might seem to everybody else.